All right, parents, here we go again. It's the Ask Dr. Tony episode. This is the Experience Miracles podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, an expert in pediatrics, neurodevelopmental disorders, and drug-free, nervous system-focused healthcare. On this weekly episode, I'll be addressing the top questions on every parent's mind. If there's one thing we love and welcome, it's parents who never stop learning, asking the hard questions, and advocating for your kiddos like none other. So get ready for some real talk, real-life clinical and parenting experience, and real easy to understand answers that will help your family take action and get to that next level of health and healing. You ask, I answer. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, what's going on, Experience Miracles Tribe? We are on another Q&A episode. Keep those coming. I love this question. The question is, why do things like speech, which would also be seizures, sleep, sensory, anxiety, behaviors, why do these big symptoms, these big brain-based symptoms, why do they come and go? Why are they on a roller coaster as my child goes through a healing nervous system focused care plan? And really, we'll just tackle it. Why do things that we really want as our big, huge goals, speech, why do we see them come online and then something happens or some things? We'll get into that. It could be singular. It could be plural. What is it or what are those things that can derail that for a season? And now the speech falls back off, or we plateau, or the behavior comes back up, or the sleep challenges show up again, or the anxiety or the seizures uptick again. Why is healing such a roller coaster is kind of the question within the question here again today. And that question is really ranked second to the top most common question we get, which is, why does it take so long to get to the brain-based healing challenges like speech, like seizures, like behavior, like anxiety, and those bigger goals we have for our kiddos? Couldn't they just come first? And then when we see those changes, when we see improvements, can't we just stick there? Can't we just stay there? Can't we just get good and stay good? And I know that's not great English, but we're looking to get to the good, the big good, as fast as possible. And then we're looking to keep it, right? Because let's just play this out. This is real life. We get to experience these miracles all day, every day in practice. One of our specialties within this neuro perfect storm work is autism. Really tough cases. Level 3, quote unquote, not quote unquote. We don't play the diagnosis game. That's why my brain says that. So, because we're not looking to diagnose, we're not looking to treat, we're not looking to cure. We take care of the foundational root causes of autism and other neurological condition, which is why we see such incredible results. And we get to share these stories and teach you the neuroscience and do both together. So all day, every day, we get to celebrate with parents who have never had their children 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, sometimes even older than that, look at their parents in the eyes for the first time, because communication starts nonverbal first. So it's that socialization, neurological eye contact connection. And then as healing continues, we get to experience all the time parents telling us, they said my name, they said mom, they said dad, they said I love you, they said yes please to a direction, or no thank you, or more, I don't know, more food please. They said something. We get to experience families sharing with us that their nonverbal children are now speaking again and again and again. But I'll tell you, I fully know where this question is coming from, because we also experience sometimes just a few weeks later, sometimes months later, sometimes whatever time frame, and for whatever reasons, I'm going to answer those reasons, then it'll kind of fade away, or it'll stall out. The words or the sentences that have come online again for that child's brain and nervous system as they're healing through neurologically focused chiropractic care, and maybe additional interventions sequenced, layered, phased together, because that's really how healing happens. Foundations first, and then get into the sequences of gut microbiome healing, nutrition, detoxification, speech therapy, OT. So maybe we're doing all the right things in all the right order, and we're moving in the right direction, and yet speech which showed up falls back off the shelf. Speech which lit up kind of stalls out. Seizures which were fading away or had gone all the way away come back. Or fill in the blank. For your child, maybe it isn't speech that you need to hear this conversation. Maybe it isn't seizures, but it's your child's challenge, and you've noticed the same thing. It took longer. That's just real life. I'm a parent. I wanted all of our seizures gone the day before he had him. Okay. So we got rid of him quickly, but one was way too many. Okay. So we want them gone yesterday and then we want them to stay gone. So I get this question. I feel this question. I understand this question. And I want to teach you the real life reasons why healing is such a roller coaster and things can come online and fall off. And then we'll teach you those reasons. It's usually a combination. It's its own kind of another perfect storm that shows up. It's just real part of a child's life. Some of them we can control. A few of the things I'm going to go through, we're going to feel like, hey, I can actually control those levers a little bit more. I can be more proactive and preventative with those levers. And then others, we can't. And we'll break that down. We'll get into what they are. We'll get into the neuroscience. And then again, like I just said, because we can control some, and we can't necessarily control the others, but we can understand them. We can make sense of them so that we can at least calm our nerves, calm our own anxiety, calm our own hearts when our kiddo maybe was really doing well, really healing, really showing signs of progress, and then hits a plateau or hits a stuck point. Even if we can't avoid it, a better understanding of why it's happening will help us massively to get through it and to the other side of it and see that launch point of healing again. So before I give you the list of things that can cause this, let me just give you a nice comp. Let me give you a comparison or a contrast. When adults, or I'll actually add kind of older teenagers, young adults, and then all of our adult population, because remember, we actually have family practices. So PX Docs don't just take care of kids, we take care of pregnant moms, fertility cases, stressed out parents, you name it, we take care of it. And we kind of specialize in really tough stuff, fibromyalgia, Lyme's, POTS, we specialize in tough stuff, epilepsy for adults as well. So we know that the first question is pretty much the same for adults, okay? The brain-based stuff heals last. First, we got to get you sleeping. We got to get digestion. We got to get neuromotor, sensory in processing and integration, smooth and efficient. We've got to get the body better first to get the brain better second. When we do that in the same sequence for adults, it tends to have a much better, and it's significantly better stick rate. Once you get an adult with seizures to the other side of them, we don't see such a roller coaster. Once you get an adult with anxiety or ADHD or whatever it may be to the other side of their healing storm and their healing path, they tend to, awesomely, good news to share here, it tends to stick really well. Now, kids, I don't get to say it that way. What I kind of, just to make light of this a little bit, turns out what God has called us to do is the toughest work in the world, which is to fly into the face of all the false truths, absolutely antiquated, inaccurate, borderline or past the borderline criminal conversations that conventional pediatricians and the medical system have said. Not only do we need to get the truth out to parents, not only do we need to get them into care that they maybe have never even heard of before, neurologically focused chiropractic, functional care, integrative care, all that. We need to then get results with the toughest, most sickest, most dysregulated, neurologically exhausted, toxic, exposed generation of kids ever. So our jobs are harder than ever. And then healing kids and we don't do the healing. God does, your child does, helping them heal. It's the hardest it's ever been. And then getting to stay in a good spot is just by nature for kids difficult. And here's why. Because they are still growing and developing at such a rapid rate that they don't yet have neurological stability. They're not even close to it. And the number one thing on this list of 10 things we're going to go through that'll actually throw a child off and cause speech to have come online and then fade off, seizures to have calmed down and then come back up, all the things we talked about in the intro here, the top 10 things, out of the 10 things, the number one is a growth spurt. I said it and you're like, it can't just be that, can it? Yes, it can. Because where subluxation, neurological dysfunction, that really messes with the brain, the nervous system, and the nervous system controls not only speech and sensory and anxiety and emotions and focus and everything else, but the nervous system controls digestion. The nervous system controls sleep. The nervous system controls the immune system and the modulation of inflammation. So if you get the nervous system to be thrown off track, anything downstream can be thrown off track. Well, the number one thing that houses and protects the brain, the brainstem, the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and the vagus nerve, just putting it all in aggregate there, what literally, physically, anatomically protects it is the skull and the neurospinal system. Said without the neuro, the spine, all the vertebrae. If you think of all those vertebrae put together, connected to the spine, they house the spinal cord, the meninges, the dura, all the neurosensory, the CSF flow, oxygenation into the brain, detoxification out of the brain. That spine, that neurophysical, structural, anatomical structure is designed to house and protect the most important system in the body. If you think of it as one bone and instead of a bunch of separate vertebrae, which is exactly how it functions, it's exactly how God designed it anatomically. We say, okay, atlas is C1 and axis is C2, and there's all these vertebrae and the sacrum and the skull and the occiput. Put it all together. It is the longest bone in the body. This is how simple number one is. When we start to adjust kiddos and we're clearing stress, misalignment, dysfunction, subluxation from this neurospinal system and this brain-body conduit of communication, the most important conduit in the entire body. It's more important than blood flow. You'd argue, oxygenation, well, guess what it runs through? The neurospinal system. So it is the boss system. So the spine and the skull are essential, foundationally. Absolutely. Medicine has no clue, but now you do. How essential the health, the alignment, the motion, the function of that system is. Well, when a child hits a growth spurt, which they're going to do, it stresses that system back out. It allows subluxation, vagus nerve dysfunction, sympathetic dominance. It allows dysautonomia and subluxation to kind of sneak back in. We can't avoid growth spurts. If we started care when your child was an infant, you know how much growth they have to do? They have dozens, I don't know the number. They have so many growth spurts left. If we started when they were a toddler, they have so many growth spurts left. Even if we started when they're a grade schooler, junior high, or a young high schooler, they might have a couple of growth spurts left. Physical growth spurts are number one on the list of what can cause neurological healing and even certain symptoms to have come online and they kind of fall offline or get stuck. Physical growth spurts. Second, falls, trauma, injuries to the neurospinal system. Bad posture, sitting in school all the time, that's terrible for the neck, the brainstem, the upper thoracics. That's the number one piece and part. If we take the most important neurological supercommunication highway, the neurospinal system, we break it down into its sections, the cervicals and the brainstem. So that's the top third. The middle third is the thoracics and the bottom third is the lumbar and the pelvic. The top is the most important because it's closest to the brain. Guess what our kids have to frickin' do all day in school? Stare at screens, work on Google Chromes, work on iPads, read books, Okay, that part's good. But they're stuck in this. So trauma to the neurospinal system doesn't have to be a fall. It can be, though. An injury at football could throw them off and mess with their speech. A fall on the playground could throw them off and mess with speech. So I want to be brief enough on this one, but growth spurts, number one, so growth spurts, growing pains, they're not just physical, they're neurological. They're not just for the muscles and the bones. The nervous system has to stretch. When the neurospinal system gets stretched out, the nervous system gets stressed out. Even if we had gotten stress off of it, it shows back up from growth spurts, physical injuries, poor posture, okay? So anything and everything that stresses the body physically, I'm going to call those the first two. And I may not make it all the way through our list of 10, but I'm going to link an article that is called The Top 10 Reasons to Get Boost Adjustments. By the way, that's the quick cheat code to get to the very end of this. How do we get out of it? If we were seeing good changes and then we're stalled out or they go away altogether, how do we get them back? Increase frequency. That's the answer. I only have one answer to this one. Increase frequency. Stress that comes into our children's lives and nervous systems, it's not static. It's variable. So when they go through more stress, physical injuries, physical growth spurts, sitting in school, the stress of school, not only physical, but emotional, social, right? Cognitive. So school's a big one on the list. When we are faced with more stress, we need more adjustments to de-stress and reboot the system. That's how easy, actually, I'm getting into it because I always do, but on the surface, that's how easy handling this can be. And our PX docs are trained to know this. In fact, proactively, we take our kiddos and we try and pre-schedule boost adjustments when they start back up in the school, when they go into the holidays, and when transition out of school into the summer. The 3 times of the year that you're going to see, most likely, unless we do these proactive boost adjustments and get ahead of it, which is hard to do sometimes because we're all so busy, the 3 times of the year that you will see your kiddos' symptoms get worse: start of school, holidays, and then transitioning from school. So the end of school, all that goes on, it's the busiest time of the year. May, well, in the Midwest, we get out of school in May, we start school in August, September, and then the holidays, obviously October to November, Halloween to November to Christmas. Those are the 3 most stressful seasons of the year. Those are the 3 busiest seasons for our practice, because that's when healing hits the skids, right? And we need to uptick against it, or kind of better said, over it, to make sure our kids get better. So first category is these physical challenges. The second category, why would speech be online? Why would these things be getting better and then fall right back off? Well, if the immune system gets challenged. So the nervous system has a lot of jobs. I've used this reference again and again on the podcast and on our platform. The central and autonomic nervous system, and if I really want to nerd out, the vagus nerve, it's the mom of the family. You keep the calendar, you keep every kid's school calendar, every kid's sports calendar, you keep the whole family calendar, you keep the household calendar. Do you know how, okay, mom's listening, you do. And you kind of don't actually, never probably want to sit down and write down all the jobs you actually have. You have 47 full-time jobs, and us dads, I'm a dad, and I'm sarcastic, so I love to, but we do everything we can to keep up too, right? And hopefully you and your crew do it with togetherness, because that's the only way to get it done effectively, and maintain our sanity, and do that when you have kids, especially multiple, and all the things. Okay, so if you think of how many things are on a parent's project management list, try being the nervous system. The nervous system has to control the foundational functions first: digestion, respiration, and immune function, and then motor function. Say it one more time: digestion, immune function / inflammation modulation. Okay, so if a virus or bacteria comes in, I got to get it out of there. So digestion, immune function, motor function. So movement. And then sleep, right? It's got to coordinate that. That's really kind of a foundational thing. Let's just talk about those 3: digestion, immune function, and then motor, moving. If any of those are thrown off, if the immune system is challenged, the nervous system and the vagus nerve gets busy, gets distracted handling the virus, handling the bacteria, handling the detoxification. So what it'll do is it'll literally turn all of its focus to that job, which means it turns its focus away from another job, which might be controlling speech, controlling seizures, and brain-based stuff. There's a foundational hierarchy of primacy, what's called, to how the nervous system functions. It will always send mitochondria, ATP, nutrient resources, neurological resources. It will always send resources to survival functions first, thrival functions last. So it's called, in another way we talk about it in neurology, it's called lower motor neuron versus upper motor neuron. It's basic functions, and they're not basic at all. They're they're life sustaining. And then there's advanced functions of the human brain, okay? Socialization, speech and communication, and emotional and behavioral regulation and cognition. So if you see your child's brain-based stuff that got online fall back offline or plateau, it usually means the body is busy. The nervous system is busy taking care of something more beneath the surface foundationally. Means your kid's going through an immune challenge. Means their digestion may have been disrupted. It means their motor function, back to the physical challenges across sections, back into that. So usually one of the biggest things we see when speech was online, falls back off, is immune challenges. Now that can be teething. That could be bacterial, that could be a viral, that could be a combination of all of these, okay? So let's call those gut, immune, and then motor challenges. All right. That's another reason why this can happen, putting those kind of a couple of them into a box. And the final ones are kind of the one more uncontrollable, and then I'm going to give you another controllable. The next uncontrollable, and it's going to sound like when I say, you're going to be like, there's no way that could literally be that connected to speech or seizures or behavior or anxiety and my kid's results going up or down. It can. Weather changes, seasonal shifts, and even things like full moons. Our autonomic nervous system, back to the vagus nerve and all the jobs it has to do, gets to regulate body temperatures, regulate pressure sensitivity. So when pressure systems move in, storms, when temperatures, if you live in the Midwest, if you live in San Diego, probably not as big of a deal because it's like sunny, 70, and you have amazing breakfast burritos all day, every day, okay? So if you live in kind of one of those areas, which is not very many on Earth, where the weather is pretty much the same all the time, literally families don't deal with this as much. But pretty much everywhere else on Earth, you have these constant weather changes. And it's going to sound like an old wives' tale, but holy holy heck is it true? I've been in practice for 17 years. And again, I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview in the neuroscience. The vagus nerve has, but there's more to it if we ever want to really nerd out. The vagus nerve has to control our temperature regulation within the body. So if it's busy because the temperatures are up, down, inside out, it's just enough to distract the vagus nerve from speech, socialization, communication, emotional regulation. If the vagus nerve is busy dealing with pressure sensitivities, because as storms come in, circadian rhythms are thrown off by seasonal changes. In this box, seasonal changes and weather shifts and all this other sort of stuff, full moons, daylight savings is thrown in here. So I said earlier, the 3 times of the year on the calendar that your kiddos tend to kind of lose their neurological stuff a little bit more, and we do as parents as well. Back to school, holidays, start of summer. Those 3 transitional seasons for families are crazy times, okay? Daylight savings, which is kind of around some of that a little bit, right? Also, when a child will be going through healing and then bam, what the heck happened? Why are we off track? Why are they melting down? Where did the speech go, right? So these are real life things. These we can't control. We can better understand, hey, we might have a rough couple of days, but we can get back online. Do some boost adjustments, really add more nervous system regulation at home, make sure we're really taking care of our diet and our nutrition and our sleep schedule, and you can smooth out these shifts, okay? Now, I went through, and again, I'm going to link the article, the article that the team will put with this Q&A episode, the top 10 reasons to get a boost adjustment. It's a little bit cleaner, because you can see it on paper or on your phone or on your laptop, and it literally breaks down these into 10. But what we're really talking about is there's kind of these main chunks of categories and then different examples within them. But another one, and I've already actually said it a bunch of times, it's just showing up here right on my list, is just busy seasons, okay? If your child was doing great, going through their neurologically focused care plan, their functional care plan, they're getting better, you're seeing results, and then you plateau or you fall backwards, take a look at your schedule. Take a look at life within the family vortex. Is it nuts right now? Is it chaos? Would your child be feeling that? And if so, that's the trigger of being stuck or even regressing. When we get busy as a family or as a parent, when our nervous systems start to peak higher than we want into sympathetic dominance, when our parasympathetic vagal nerve relax, stay regulated, connected tone starts to fall apart, our kids feel that. They experience that. They go through that. So the final reason why so often I'm going to go back to the number one common question and then this one and answer them with the same thing. Why does it take longer for some families to see healing and get these brain-based changes to come online? Speech, seizures, ADHD, anxiety, behavior, whatever it may be. Why does it take longer for some families? Is it their genetics? That's not that big of a factor. It's involved. Is it their diet, their lifestyle, their household, their mold? Are you doing the right supplements? Is it this or that or essential oils? Those are super important. They're involved. The one that I'm about to release, you'll get this one before I start to release a bunch of these episodes. You're going to hear the term on this podcast and the PX Talks platform. There's going to be more articles on the website. There's going to be more podcasts coming out right here on Experience Miracles. There's going to be more Instagram posts. If you don't follow us on Instagram and Facebook yet, you're really missing out. We have life-changing content on there daily, 2 times a week episodes, but we post on Instagram and Facebook every single day. If you don't follow us yet, go do that right now. You're going to hear this word more than ever called co-regulation. It's going to change your family's life. You're probably already aware of it. Hey, when I'm stressed out, when I'm chaotic, when I'm tapped out, when I'm exhausted, when I'm short, when I'm jumpy, when I'm testy, so's my baby, so's my teenager, so's my whole family. I certainly notice it. I'm literally recording this right in a busy season. Every spring and every fall. Maybe I should work on this, but that's when all the conferences and the seminars are for parents. So I'd love to come meet all you and teach you guys in certain conferences. They happen in the spring. They happen in the fall. Nobody does conferences in the summer, and nobody does conferences between Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, right? Neither does the chiropractic profession. I'm way better at it than I used to be because I know about this, what I'm teaching right now. But if my travel schedule or my work schedule and my mission schedule gets my nervous system wound up, sympathetic dominant, dysregulated, irritated, subluxated, and my vagus nerve and my ability to regulate my emotions, regulate my patience, regulate my sleep, if I'm off track, I'm going to be a lot more jumpy, a lot more testy, and I'm much more likely to throw some kerosene on my hypersensitive kiddos' nervous systems. And if you do have, I thankfully, bless our kiddos, have been well adjusted, even all of our American men. We don't really have hypersensitive. Everybody has it to a degree. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is, what if your child is an extra sensitive nervous system yet? What if you haven't made it all the way through the neurological care plan, which is for a lot of kiddos, at least 3 to 6 months to get to neurological stability? For some kids, it's 3 to 5 years to get to neurological stability if their nervous system was the full, severe, significant, perfect storm. I can't say anything other than what I've seen after almost 20 years of taking care of kids. Perfect storms, understanding the neuroscience, and then putting it all together forward for as fast of healing, we always go for it. As full of healing, that's what we go for. And as stable, consistent, sticky of healing, well, that's the dream scenario, right? Where these regular parts of life don't throw us off. But so often, one of the most hidden in plain sight root causes of our kids getting better and then maybe falling off the better wagon a little bit is we're on the fritz. We're stressed out. We're dysregulated. We're sympathetic dominant. And we're super, super wound up. And we're bringing that into our family's nervous system environment. So get ready for some really helpful, really life-changing, yours and your kiddos' healing and stability journey conversations on the Experience Miracles podcast about nervous system co-regulation and how really the hidden in plain sight key to healing your child more fuller and more consistently might just be your own healing journey. And the final thing on the list, why can we be doing good and then fall off the wagon? Medications, vaccinations, and other medical interventions will absolutely throw healing sideways. Or if you've added things like detoxifications, diet elimination diets, allergy testing, other therapies, other interventions. So it can either be conventional medicine or it could be functional biomedical. If there's a lot being added into your system, your child's system at one time, that can cause speech, seizures, behavior, sleep, sensory stuff. Things can go sideways. Even if we're adding in other interventions that are supposed to help, sometimes they help one thing, but they can set another thing back. So that is enough information for this Q&A episode. What causes, why does speech come and go through the healing process? And then we could insert every other brain-based symptom or challenge within that speech box. Why do seizures come up and down? Why does behavior? So this conversation I know is going to help a lot of families who are really doing awesome, and you're already on the healing journey and you're already seeing good things happen or have seen good things happen, and maybe now it's up and then that one's down or that one's stuck. This will help you make sense of exactly what is happening. Some of it you can probably control. Some of it you can't, but you can now better understand it. And the stuff that you do have a little bit or a lot of bit of power on, lean into that, lean into us. You have questions out to learn more about co-regulation, more about different things that you can proactively help your child heal. I know every single parent, we want to be involved. We don't want to be passive in this process. We want to be active, especially those of you rock stars that plug into our platform. You're the most engaged, all in. Tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it 10 times over. So if you need help with more of that, hit the show notes. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook, make sure we give all sorts of tips on there. Even on our stories every single day, we're helping out. And then if you really are still missing something from kind of your own investigation into our platform, certainly always hit us up with a DM on Facebook or Instagram or via support@pxdocs.com. Hope this one served you and your family very well. God bless you. We got this. This movement is happening, y'all. Our kids, we're going to end this chronic illness epidemic. We're going to get healing happening, and then we're going to get healing to stick to and have more stability and more longevity and more consistency. God's got this. You got this. We got this. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Do you have a question that you would like to submit? Either send it to support@pxdocs.com with the subject Ask Dr. Tony, or head on over to our socials at PXDocs, where you can submit your question in our stories every single week. Every kid counts and every family counts, so let's leave no questions left unanswered. If you loved this episode and you want to help us reach more kids, we would so appreciate if you left a review and a rating on your favorite platform. God bless, be well. We'll see you on the next one.